Welcome back to Robert Cooks. So make sure you check out, if you're just getting in this video, make sure you check out the one before where I just put the prime rib on the rotisserie. So checking out the rotisserie again, it's turning out fantastic. We're getting a nice coat on the outside, and it's only been on for about an hour, hour and a half, and it's already starting to get a nice coat here on the prime rib. The fire trick with the arteflame here is we got to make sure that we keep the fire nice. Now it's still very, very hot on the inside, but a tool I love to use to one, light it, but also to keep the flames and the coals and the air in the inside to keep the highest temperature possible for cooking my meat is a great product called Loof. And what's really neat about this is you can heat it up and then touch the charcoals itself. And I'm gonna make a separate video just for this and how to use it. But once you get it started, it'll start to heat up. But what's really neat about this, outside of just helping to start the fire, is to keep it going and to put more air in the center of it to conduct the heat on the outside. And so how it works is we'll turn it on, and what's really neat about it is it has a fan on here. So you can kind of hear that there. There's a fan on here. And so I can begin to get it under here to spark the coals. And so we don't want to blow up ash, of course, but you see how that is already starting to come back on. And then we get that fire going again so that it'll start to keep a nice heat and temperature throughout. And so what we'll start next is we're going to start our smash burgers. And so if we come back on over here, a couple things here. Again, I love this product for the burgers. For this prime rib, we have the steak blend on there, but for the burgers, I'm going to use just the blend. It's just a great mixture of salt and pepper and garlic to give the burgers some flavors. But what I like to do to make the perfect shape of the smash burger is use a 1/4 cup measuring tool here. And so what I do is I take the meat itself here, and then I'm going to break it into pieces. One, it's going to do a couple things here for me outside of just forming it. Now, you're not making meatballs, so you don't want to pack it in there too much, but you want it nice and even so that your burgers are consistent throughout. And so it just makes a nice little shape here. And so I'll make each one of these, and then I don't season the meat beforehand. It's just the ground beef itself, and a great blend is an 80-20 blend. But I just want to get the meat in here. But as far as seasoning, once it gets on there, I'll show you how I season it, but I'll season it once it's on the hot top as well. And so we'll make each one of these. And again, just packing it on there. Shout out while I'm doing this, I make the food, but I do not do any of my shopping, I hate to say. So shout out to my wife, Samantha, who keeps the refrigerator nice and stocked, so I'm able to make these videos. And also, I'm giving shout outs, I also want to shout out my sponsors, Port City Family Chiropractic. Check them out at portcityfamilychiropractic.com, and buying and selling with Robert, a local realtor here in Mobile. Check him out as well at buyingandselling.robert.com. And so once I get these on here, and I want to have about 6 to 7 of them. Now, depending on how many people you're going to have or how many burgers you're looking to cook, you can use 1 pound of ground beef, or you can go up and add as many as you need. Now, I will say, when you're cooking these, the first couple times you do them, the trick really is keeping an eye and having everything nice and prepped and ready to go. Once you get these burgers on there, they're thin burgers, a smash burger, and so they're gonna cook really, really quick. And so I wanna make sure I have everything prepped and ready, because I'm not gonna be able to, like traditionally when I cook burgers, I put them on, I got a few minutes. If I wanna pop open a beverage, or I wanna go inside and then get any of my buns or my bacon or my cheese, I have time in between as it cooks. With a smash burger, it's gonna cook very, very quickly. So you just wanna make sure everything's prepped and ready to go. And so now that I have some of these going, I'll go ahead and get one on there so I can show you exactly how we grill. What I want to do for the grill top as well, to prep it, I you could do a couple things. You can use grape seed oil, which is great, or you can use the puck, that seasoning puck that comes with the arteflame itself. And so they'll send it right there. A great product because it's already there for you. All you got to do is put it on there and spread it around. But once we get it on the top here, as you can see, what we're going to do is get it down here. You'll see it starts melting almost immediately because the top is already so hot. But I'll primarily be cooking in this region here. But if you were cooking a little of everywhere, what I would do is spread it all the ways around. But what you'll do first is once you get it on there, it's going to melt quick. But kind of like painting, I want to take just a piece of paper towel and just kind of spread it throughout. I'm going to be cooking on this part. Now, if I was going to cook on the whole grill today, what I would do is season the entire thing. But I'm primarily going to be cooking here. So I want the most amount on this spot right here. And I'll do a light coat just to smooth it out because I have some extra just from where it melted quickly. So I'll go ahead and spread it everywhere. But again, just get a little bit on there where it starts melting, take a paper towel and then spread it evenly throughout. That's going to coat it nice so everything cooks. It protects the grill and it creates a non-stick surface environment. Next, what I want to do is I have my two smash burgers here. I'm going to stick one right on the grill right here. And then you want to get an even smash on it. So I take it down like this right here. I use parchment paper. What's great about that versus just using the spatula to slam everything down is the meat's not going to stick to the bottom of it. And so it keeps everything on here. And so once you get it on here and it's nice and even, I like to press down right at the center here. The idea is to hold it here for about 10 seconds so that you start to get a nice crisp between the bottom cooking surface and the bottom of the burger. With a smash burger, what you want to begin to do by keeping it down like this is that I want to create a nice crust on the bottom of it. It's going to lock in all the flavor. And again, once it's been about 10 seconds, again, these burgers cook quick. And so I'm going to just make sure all the edges are down so that we get a nice crust on here. And then I just take this parchment paper up. Once that one's going, I'll put the next one down. But again, once we do this, I'm pushing it down, moving side to side. It's going to help everything spread out evenly. And then once I have everything on there like before, I'm going to hold it here about 10 seconds to begin to get the meat into the cooking surface to create that nice crust. And then while that's doing that, I'll peel this back off. Everything's nice and flat on there, so we're starting to create a nice smash burger. Again, with these, because they're so thin on the bottom and because we're creating that crust on the bottom, we really only need to season one side. And so on here again, I have the blend, which is the salt, pepper, and garlic. I'm going to begin to season the top here. Put a nice coat of seasoning on here so that we have a flavorful burger. Even though it's a smash burger, it's still going to remain juicy, even though it's not a full-size burger. And so while this is cooking, what I also want to begin to do is I like to do bacon on my smash burgers. And so you can do all kinds of variations, whether you want to do bacon or just the burger and cheese itself. I like to get bacon going. So I'm going to stick the bacon on here as well. And then while the smash burger's cooking, I'll get the bacon going. You can already hear it starting to sizzle over here. And what's great about this, again, we're cooking primarily, I wanted to cook prime rib today, but because I already had a nice fire going, I decided I'm going to do lunch and dinner. So now I've gotten 2 meals out of one fire, which is fantastic. And so with this, while this is cooking here, I'm also cooking the bacon. The bacon's going as well. Once you start to see some of the blood come up from the meat itself, it'll start to bubble on the inside here. That's an indication that we're starting to get that nice crust on there. And what I like to do is just kind of go back and forth so that we don't want to scrape the crust off and leave it on here. We want that crust to remain on the burger itself. And so I kind of go in here on the side. I'll scrape over here. I'll come over here. I just want to make sure that I don't leave the burger remaining on there. So once we get it here, we'll flip it over and you see that nice crust on here. That's exactly what you want. We didn't leave any of it on the cooked surface. We have that crust right here. And so it's creating and locking in all the juice and the flavors of what people love about a smash burger. Again, the fire is going good. The top. Another tool I recommend is to make sure, the trick is here, and what I had to learn when I first did this is what we want is about 1,000 degrees in the center. We want 400 around the rim here, and then it should be about between 200 and 250 on the outer surface here. And so it took a little bit of playing around to figure that out, but a tool that I highly recommend getting once you purchase the arteflame is one of these thermometers. And so what's great about this is I got it off of Amazon, about $17, so very inexpensive. But what it's going to allow me to do is it's going to allow me to see what the cooking surface temperature is on here. And so around the outside here, I'm about 380 degrees. And so it'll range between 380 and 400. Again, I want to, as it starts to get on the outer rim here, I want to start to see it go in that 250 range. But highly recommend these. One, it's going to allow you to know in the beginning exactly where to start cooking and when to start cooking. And then throughout, I want to just make sure that the fire itself is conducting the amount of heat that I want it to, so I get the optimal amount of cook time on here. While I have these going, and again, they're not going to take very long. What I pre-do with my buns is I like to put butter on the bottom of them so that I can get them nice and crispy on the side here. Another thing you can do is once I take that burger off itself, sometimes I like to just move them off to the side. Once they're done, you can move them down to that outer rim to keep them warm, but not to overcook them. And so sometimes what I like to do is take these and I'll stick them right on here to get that flavor of the burger. Crisp them up real nicely. And then while I have that going, I have my cheese here. And so what I want to do with the cheese is I put it right on top, get it nice and melted down. Now the bacon, couple tools you can use is you can get one of the metal things that are just flat metal with a handle. You can put it on there. It's going to speed cook your bacon a little bit. Another thing I'll do is, since I got the bacon on here a little bit late, I normally want to start with the bacon before the burgers, but because I got it on here a little bit late, I'll take a pan and you can just put it right on here, or you could do a metal bowl. And so what it's going to do is conduct the heat, so it makes it more like an oven, and it'll speed cook the bacon a little bit, catch up with everything else that I've already primarily accomplished here. And so the buns are coming along nicely. Again, I just want to get a nice toast on them where that cheese melts. And you can tell on the prime rib here as well. I know we're cooking smash burgers, but the prime rib is crusting up real nice. Look at that. Full of juice, full of seasoning. Can't wait to get that off there in a couple more hours and really cut into it to get the flavor. That size one here, about per bone, you're looking at about 2. When I buy a prime rib, what I want to look at is how many bones are in there. And so on the outer rim, each bone is about 2 servings. And so this particular one has 3 bones in it. We're going to get about 6 servings off of it. Come over here and check my bacon. Bacon is cooking up nicely here. And so we'll be back shortly The next video that we'll make is us putting together our wonderful smash burgers. So check out the next video as we assemble the famous smash burger.